Hey guys, welcome to the very first live stream, the sort of nightly recap at Sports.ws. Um, just bear with me right now as I tinker around with our setup. Um, very new here to streaming, so just bear with us. I'm hoping that I can edit all this out after the stream before it's just sitting there embedded on the website. Just want to make sure that the embed on the site is configured properly. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, I think we're just about ready to roll. Let me push this link out so everybody can actually see it. Throw that up there. Don't really have much in terms of graphics or assets or anything like that. This literally came together at the last minute, but it's something that I wanted to do for opening day. You know, just to get into a bit of a routine. So I threw that link out on Discord. I'm going to throw it out on Twitter, and then we can start chatting. Okay. Throw this out there. And now, the big one will be embedding this right on the site. Because right now, I know it's late for North America, but Europe is waking up right now, and they come to Sports.ws hard in the morning. So I'm eager to get this out and ready for those users. So let me just do that right now. Eventually, ideally, this process will be a bit more refined. But we're in uncharted territory here. Okay. So now this embedded live stream link is accessible to all, and we're on Discord, and we are out on Twitter, and we'll see if anybody's awake. So I'm not sure that we even have anybody. There says one concurrent viewer, and I'm pretty sure it's just me. But that's okay, because my goal is to have this set up so that we can have it just embedded, on the site as, people check in, to check on their teams throughout the day to be able to go through this. And I don't want to really make these videos too long. Right? I just want to have sort of a quick recap, and then let people get on with their day. We do have some plans for video this year, slightly more refined plans in the form of like a weekly video podcast that will be coming. We're excited about that. But this, there are so many times where I want to just make YouTube videos to explain little features on the site. And it's often easier for me to just kind of fly through it in real time with people. We've been using the Discord server more and more for that sort of thing, just to be able to have those real-time conversations. But nothing beats just simply showing people some things. And we've added a lot of features over the course of the last few years that not all users know about, especially new users. Just different ways that you can sort of monitor your team, you sort of digest the action, whether you're just looking for a summary of the NBA games, or if you're looking for a summary of your specific fantasy matchup. There's a couple different ways that you can kind of follow along with games as they happen. We've got real-time stats now that are updating more frequently than ever. I'm pretty sure that our stats update once per minute. And that's new as of last season. We started working with SportRadar, and they provide great stats, so we're happy to do that. You may notice that you still have to refresh the page for the stats to be updated. We don't have any of the on-page API fetching yet, but it's all stuff that I would like to do. But instead of just me rambling on about all sorts of different things, I figured I'd just hop right into what could be just a typical morning for me as a admin of Sports.ws, but also a longtime user and as just a basketball enthusiast. And we can talk about the two games from opening night and just go through things from there. So what you're looking at right now is the main page after you log in. And if you're playing at Sports.ws for the very first time, we do things a little bit different around here, which you may have noticed already. For example, most users that join us from ESPN or from Yahoo, they're used to weekly matchups, and so we don't do that here. What we do is have game by game matchups. So a couple years ago, we added this little widget right here, which I think really kind of summarizes what it entails. Your fantasy game consists of game 1, and it's the first game for each NBA team. Obviously, we've got 30 NBA teams. For now, when the season is very new and very simple, it's pretty straightforward. You know that game 1 started on December 22nd because we watched the Lakers and Clippers and Nets and Warriors all play, but the rest of the 26 teams, they don't actually play until December 23rd, today, I guess. So a Sports.ws matchup officially closes when you've got all 30 teams that have played game one. So here you can see now that 4 of the 30 teams in the NBA have played, which is 13%. So game one is 13% complete. And yes, when we're right in the middle of the season, we will often have, several games open at one time. You can have 4 or 5 games open at one time, right in the thick of the season, when it's like one team is playing their 37th game, and another team is playing their 44th game. So this is just a good way to really sort of summarize where each Sports.ws matchup is at any given time. So if I'm logging into my leagues in the morning, the first things that I like to check out, even before I get too lost in the weeds, with all these leagues, I've got an absurd amount of leagues, and I know I'm not the only one. The things I like to do first is actually just comb through the NBA box scores themselves, and so a couple years ago we sort of expanded what we do here in that regard. I wanted to have a place where if you were, I guess, just sitting on your couch watching a game, you can sort of get the stats updating in real time. Previously, we would have users, sitting on an ESPN box score or an NBA box score, and then trying to kind of do the math for whatever their custom scoring format is. So I built that a couple years ago, and we revised it, I think, last year to really sort of be that sort of experience for people. So if you hop into any of the box scores, I just hopped into the Warriors and Nets, you can see the best performers in that game based on your league's scoring format. And in this case, this is a slightly custom scoring format, similar to production, but tweaked a little bit. So you see the fantasy points right here, and you can kind of get a quick look at who the biggest, the most impactful fantasy players were in that game. You might notice that it's not ranked by fantasy points per game. It's like a hybrid of fantasy points and FPPM. So you can kind of, a player, even if they only played like 15 minutes, if they were just amazing in their time on the court, they might sneak into the top 3, even if other players sort of put up more points, period. Obviously, we've got the tweets. We've always had the tweets from all of the journalists that are on, followed by the Sports.ws Twitter account. Make sure to send any recommendations that you have for good follows to us, so we can loop them in here, and then that will sort of include them whenever a player in our database is mentioned. In this case, anybody on the Nets or on the Warriors. I don't know if you guys watched the game. Our European users probably did not watch the game, but anybody in North America viewing this probably did. It was the first game of the season. It wasn't a particularly exciting game in terms of the basketball on the court, but it was just a fun game for a couple of reasons. I would say mostly due to the fact that it was Kevin Durant's first game back, and he looked awesome. He didn't look hampered in any way, and just went crazy. He only played 25 minutes. The game was out of hand pretty early on, so the Nets didn't have to really, run their guys very hard. So it was just so nice to see Kevin Durant back at close to full capacity. And he was doing it against his former team, which was a nice twist. But I don't know if I'm willing to say that Durant is like completely back to where he was when he left off, but we're just so happy to see him doing well in his first taste of action back. And of course, Kyrie Irving looked real good in his first game with KD. It's been somewhat of an awkward few weeks for Kyrie, but at least it's good to know that it didn't impact his fantasy production. Who knows? Kyrie was so good last year from a fantasy perspective in the games that he did play, but obviously I think he only played like 20 games last year. So hopefully there's the urgency to play a lot of games this year, as the Nets really kind of push, for a title. I think that's everybody's expectation in Brooklyn, um, which is good. I mean, I think having a player like Kyrie slightly more invested in the outcome of the season will definitely help anybody who drafted him in a fantasy league. Karis LeVert looked great. I think he's at the top of the list here for this game. That's a question everybody is trying to figure out an answer for is what LeVert's role looks like on a team where the ball's like sort of flowing through Durant and Irving. But I mean, he just looked fantastic in his first game here. And now it's just a matter of, will that continue? On nights when Durant and Irving need to play 35 minutes, I don't know that anybody knows that answer. But it'll be interesting to find out. Well, this table is accessible to anybody, whether you're logged in at Sports.ws or not. If you are logged in, you get additional sort of context here. It tells you specifically what fantasy matchup this game is like tied to. So everything's pretty straightforward now. Everything's tied to game one. But 2 weeks from now, we might have some users that are some teams that are playing in game 5 and another team playing in game 7, and you'll be able to jump off from this box score directly into the corresponding fantasy matchup. Super easy. So that's something that I was happy to add a few years ago. And there's one other thing. This is just a bad example in terms of my own personnel from this particular fantasy league. I don't have any players on the Warriors or on the Nets, and I'm not playing against those players either. So let me just toggle my active league here. So this is the league that I'm currently, sort of set up in. So every page that I view at Sports.ws is sort of seen through this lens, and mostly that just means anytime I'm on a page, I'm seeing the custom scoring format for this particular league, and I'm seeing the rosters for this particular league. But I'm going to change my active league here, and I'm going to hop into a different league. I know for a fact that in this league, I have James Wiseman, and you can see that here. It's bolded. You got a little basketball emoji to just really make it clear that this player is on your team. And I was happy to scoop up James Wiseman in the first year of a new Dynasty League, and he just looked fantastic in his first game, period. He didn't play in preseason. He didn't do any of the big pre-draft combines, and obviously he didn't play much of the season at Memphis last year. So this was Wiseman's first real game outside of practice in probably a year, I bet, and he certainly looked great. I just think he's going to be such an impact player in terms of per minute fantasy right out of the gates, especially in production leagues or any custom league that kind of gives extra weight to rebounds or blocks or steals or whatever. And he certainly looked nice in his first game, so I'm excited to see him. And of course, it was nice to see Steph Curry back. Most people were maybe talking about Durant in this game, about how he was finally returning, but it was a big day for Curry too. It was just such a lost campaign for him last year, and then they obviously didn't play in the bubble. So it's nice to know that he's back at it too. The league is better off with those guys. You didn't really realize, I at least didn't, personally, how much of an impact they had until they were gone, and then so it's just nice to have them back. Nothing really crazy that stood out for me from the rest of these Warriors players, just like strictly speaking from the basketball perspective. And I think that's because the game was pretty out of hand early on. I bet they only let Curry play 31 minutes just for him to get his sort of feet under him again. But otherwise, this is it was the sort of game where you clear the bench early and get, some players reps that aren't always going to be getting those reps. So nice games out of Marquise Chris. between him and James Wiseman, the Warriors have a sneaky nice fantasy front court. They're obviously not going to be playing major minutes this year, but they're going to fill the stat sheet while they're out there in sort of low point totals, but lots of rebounds. So like I said, the game wasn't all that exciting, nothing to write home about, but there were just a lot of sort of little bonuses in there that would make any basketball fan happy to see. Mostly just seeing Durant and Curry back, and even seeing Wiseman play for the first time, because so many of the other rookies we got to watch in preseason, but nobody knew what to expect out of Wiseman. The next game wasn't all that much more exciting, to be honest. The Clippers ended up squeezing out a win that I thought the Lakers could have made a more aggressive push for, but they kind of just let it go to the Clippers. And I guess it's the beginning of a long season, and it's a weird night for the Lakers. They got their rings before the game, and it's always tough for teams to play after they got their ring. Probably, I imagine, just a surreal night, to do all that and then have to turn around and play against your rival. So the Lakers, it felt to me that they kind of just let the Clippers sort of take it towards the end of the game. But I'm not ready to sleep on these Lakers anytime soon. We did get a lot of production out of LeBron today, at least in terms of he played 29 minutes. There was talk, I don't know if this was substantiated at all. I'm pretty sure Danny Green said it at some point that he wondered if LeBron would even be playing early on, given the fact that they had such a short offseason. So it's just nice to see him playing 29 minutes. I'm sure that they'll be pretty cautious with him this year, and sit him more than they might in other seasons. But it's just good to know that they at least feel comfortable putting him out there for nearly 30 minutes in an opener. But clearly the Lakers just leaned on their new additions, Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell, and they were both great in their first game. So happy to see that. I think that the Lakers are just so much scarier this year with them than last year, which is sort of scary for the rest of the league. But the Clippers got the win though, and Paul George looked great. The Clippers, one thing that I was happy to see was that the Clippers were using Nick Batum quite a bit. 29 minutes is crazy for a player who we've kind of just all sort of forgotten about over the last few years. But I hope he's able to stay healthy. It was pretty easy to write him off when he was making $27 million and not playing. But I think we have to be careful we don't overcompensate and just completely write him off, because now on a minimum deal, as far as the Clippers are concerned, he's just such a bargain. He's a talented player, and especially with those Portland teams early on in his career, he was a big impact maker. So that he'll be one player I'll be watching. Batum always had sneaky good fantasy value too, because he was always getting steals, he was always getting blocks, and he was just contributing across the board. So I'm not going to go crazy and draft him in shallow leagues, but this league that I'm in right now is a 30-team league, so he's clearly owned, and he's owned by my opponent in this game. So I don't have anybody on the Lakers on my team. Disregard anything you see down here. On my own account, I throw a lot of just various sort of dev things, just for me to keep tabs on. But regular user accounts won't see any of that stuff. I wonder now what the best thing to hop into would be. I think I'm going to hop right into a fantasy matchup, because here's where you'll see your actual fantasy results. We were looking at at an NBA level before up here, but now we're going to look at a Sports.ws level here. So obviously you don't have the same you've got players from your actual fantasy roster across all the teams that you have them on. The only player on my team that has played is James Wiseman. Everybody else plays on the 23rd, and that's why they're gold here. It means that they play today, and today is December 23rd. If they didn't play until the 24th or the 25th or whatever, then they would just be on white backgrounds. But if you see a bunch of gold on your team, you've got a lot of players in action tonight. So here you can see I've got James Wiseman going. My opponent had the two players. We saw them in both of those matchups. It was Jordan Poole and Nick Batum. So this is something that you can keep tabs on even over the course of a game too. If you'd rather just refresh this constantly to see how Wiseman's doing over the course of a game, you can do that. That's probably more applicable for our North American users who can be sitting on their phones, sort of up, like checking in on their team as the games happen. Bit of a different story, I'm sure, for any of our users in Europe. So this is my game one. You can see all your opponents here. You can throw in some trash talk here. I went pretty heavy on the rookies in this league. You may have noticed. My first pick. This is a startup dynasty, a salary dynasty with 30 teams in it. My first pick, I had to go with LaMelo Ball simply because I just want an excuse to watch LaMelo Ball. And Wiseman was my second rounder, I believe. I might have traded in for a second first. It was a weird rookie class. Nobody knows what to expect. Still don't know what to expect. But I'm just so excited about Wiseman, as I was saying. And LaMelo Ball, I'm pretty high on as well. Even if he's not going to be an amazing fantasy talent right away, especially in per minute leagues, he's just such a fun player to watch. And I can't remember last time I've seen so many Charlotte Hornets preseason games. But he's just a joy to watch with the basketball. So I'm happy to take him there. Obi Toppin is another rookie that I'm just excited to see. So that's my fantasy matchup. If I hop over to a couple of the other things that I check out here you can see, if you're a user at Sports.ws for the very first time, here's a quick link to get into that first game, and you can also as soon as that game one deadline passed, and it passed at 7 p.m. Eastern on the 22nd, then all of a sudden game two is the next deadline you need to worry about. Game one is done, and so hopefully you set everybody, you don't have to set it every day, you just have to set it before every game. So now that game one is the deadline has come and gone. Now all we can do is just click and wait to see how that game goes, and then we worry about game two. So if you want, you can hop into your lineup and you can set game two here. Now that we've got a game under our belts, you're going to start seeing these stat tables populated. That's another thing. It's so awkward, and I don't know what the right answer is. Let me know if you have an opinion. I switched as soon as we started getting the preseason stats. I switched the active season over from 2019-20 to 2020-21. But that also resulted in seeing a lot of zeros because the preseason stats, they don't accumulate in the stat table that is used for these projections, for example. So everybody was looking at a bunch of zeros unless they specifically toggled the previous season, which you can always do. But that's just something that I never really know what the right answer is. And this year especially felt extra difficult to nail because people were just drafting so much later, So I want to be able to show those preseason stats. I love getting, really excited about preseason stats. But at the same time, I know you're not drafting your team based off of preseason stats. You probably want the 2019-20 numbers. So yeah, hit me in the comments here on this on the live stream or on Twitter. You know how to find me. Um, with what do you think we should do next year? At what point do we officially start the new season? Is it on opening day that I make the switch from displaying by default 2019 stats, or do I do it earlier as I did this season? So I don't know if there is a right answer, but I'm happy to hear preferences if you've got it. Um, what else do we have on here? One major thing that I feel like constantly gets slept on, and I'm sure I've just done a terrible job of promoting this, is the NBA Daily page here. This, to me, is just this complete like jumping off point for anything relevant to your fantasy team. Obviously, today is December 23rd, but for me, I mean, it still kind of feels like December 22nd, so I'm going to hop back to December 22nd. Here's a one-page summary of everything going on in the NBA that's relevant for your fantasy team. And we just looked at the box scores from my West 4th Street Hooligans League, so I'm going to switch it up to a different league. See if, I'm invested in Wiseman in a couple of different leagues. Okay, here we go. We got some new personnel here. This is my team, and these are my players. If I want to hop into a specific NBA box score, I can do that right here. Like if I want to learn about more than just Zubac, I can click into the box score and it takes me here. Or I can hop right into the fantasy matchup and it takes me here. So this is a good, if you don't want to sort of comb through each and every box score. I mean, it's pretty easy when there's only 2 games going on, but when there's, what is this, like 13 games going on, you might want to be planted just on this sort of daily outlook. Now you can see as the evening goes on, or even just, retroactively, you can see all of your players' stats that are relevant for your fantasy team right from here. I love this. This is the page that I camp out on during the evenings when the games are actually happening. That's something I can do in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, it's just the quickest way to sort of get a complete look at how your players did on a given day, as opposed to in a given Sports.ws matchup. So there's a couple other features that are sort of built into here that I just kind of like keeping tabs on. This is more or less like the MVPs of the night, broken into 2 categories: players who played like a full workload above 25 minutes, and then players who played a less than 25 minutes. So you can see that Kyrie, this is unusual. Kyrie Irving, who played above 25 minutes, actually put up less fantasy points than Karis LeVert did. That's not normally the case, obviously. Usually the players that play more minutes end up with more fantasy points. That's just how good Karis LeVert was. But here you can see everything. You can see all the best players, and they're ranked in a similar way to how they were ranked on the box score page, which is, it's not pure fantasy points and it's not pure FPPM. It's kind of a hybrid of the two. Not exactly rocket science, but it's just a way of sort of balancing for both of those things. Obviously, like Michael Mulder put up 1.36 FPPM, which is nice and cool and all, but we're not about to say that was more effective than even like Durant's 1.2. So if you see a player with blue behind them, it means they're available in your league. So in this league, which is a salary league, I'll have you know, Kelly Oubre is available. He didn't have a particularly great game, and he's got a big contract, which is why he's available in this particular league. Anybody with the blue background is available to be picked up. So you can just hop over to their profile straight from here. You can pick them up like that. This guy's sitting on waivers right now, so you can put in a claim right from his player profile. That is new for this year. But back to our main NBA daily hub. The last thing that I kind of really want to get into on this page is this sort of trending section. It's basically, it just takes like the player's own percentage, like today versus what it was 2 weeks ago. So you can really kind of see the players that are gaining momentum. And a couple of these guys just had great preseason games. Like Strus looked real nice in I think he just played the 2 preseason games, but he looked great. Emmanuel quickly had just an awesome 5-steal game in the preseason. Obviously, this is why we play. We overreact to every single game, especially preseason games, which are the most fun to overreact to. You can see here anybody with blue. Again, they're available in your league. VIP users, they can toggle to only show the available players. So if you really want to sort of get real granular and filter out, so you're only seeing the players that you can actually go and pick up. You can do that. You can toggle that here, but I haven't even given myself VIP access yet. So that's something that you guys can do. I know there's been I didn't really push VIP this year. But it is functional, so if it's something you're interested in as a commissioner, if you want to manually change positions, or if you want any of these sort of extra stats or extra data available, then that's something you can do. As far as these players go, looking at the players themselves, I think a lot of these are just sort of reactionary. We have so many 30-team leagues at Sports.ws. It's, in my opinion, one of the coolest things about our community. So you get people taking flyers on anyone, and I love it. Pokashevsky is a player who I've just heard more and more people talking about, and he certainly looked nice in preseason. It still kind of strikes me as pretty raw. Those stat lines are nice, for a 19-year-old. But I don't really know if this is the year that Pokashevsky becomes a reliable fantasy asset, but people are taking flyers on him, and I love that. I love that about Sports.ws. You can toggle all these open and closed. The players that are getting dropped, kind of straightforward. Hollis Jefferson got cut. Isaac, the Magic got the disabled player exception for him, which basically just means, no chance he plays this year. I don't think anybody really thought he would. And Frank Kaminsky's here because he got cut by the Kings. Like, we might see this number rebound. We might see this number rebound now that he's back on Phoenix, and he's on Phoenix on a nicer contract. So I think we'll see that go up there. I'm a low key Frank Kaminsky fan. I don't even know why. But if you're in a contract league, he's on a minimum deal, and now he's on Phoenix, back on Phoenix, I should say. What else could I really jump into on the stream here? This was mostly just for me to try to work my way through this process. I see we've got Pittman's is in the chat. I do plan on doing this, maybe not quite as long, but doing it regularly. I have fun doing it, and I want to open myself up to questions. I'm happy to talk about fantasy basketball in general, but if you've got questions specific to the site about features, or if you're wondering how to use something or whatever, hit me with questions, and you can hit me with questions here in the live chat, on Twitter, anywhere on the forum, and I am happy to sort of go through that stuff. Maybe I won't be making them. We're already pushing close to 40 minutes on this stream. So this is my first time doing it, so I hope now that if I close this out, hopefully I can crop out some of that dead space at the beginning of the feed and then just leave this embedded on the front page. Like, I hope this isn't too intrusive. I tried to keep it visible but not annoying. Let me know if you can think of a better idea for that. Otherwise, I might hop off, but I appreciate anybody who hopped in and sort of took a look at what I've got to say here. And this is something I'll make a regular thing. Maybe, who knows? It's a weird time of year to start something on December 23rd. Maybe I should have thought that through. I just got so excited for opening day. But I'm going to close off this stream and then leave the video embedded for anybody that wants to watch it throughout the day. All right, I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll talk to you all soon. Okay. Oh, before I go, you should subscribe to the video. You know, we're trying to build up the channel so that we can do more ambitious things than me rambling here on a live stream. I mentioned that earlier about those the weekly shows. We've got some cool ideas planned for that. So if you want to hit subscribe on here, it helps like the channel as we grow it. It's sort of been around for years, but we're definitely investing more in it now. Not only to provide like useful content, we want to go through rankings and fantasy advice and tips and trends and all that stuff. But also just put out better tutorial resources for new users. I know it's such a tough concept to grasp for the first time, and I'm just so removed from what that's like. I'm one of the many Sports.ws users that has been literally playing for 20 years. I don't remember what it's like to learn the process. And in fact, this is what I was exposed to first. So any user that's coming to us from ESPN or from Yahoo that just kind of wants more context, more insight into what the different differences that set Sports.ws apart. I just want to be able to help those people more. I feel like that's something that we need to do. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna get out of here, but I appreciate everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon. Find me on Twitter, subscribe to the video here, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, guys.